Hey guys, this is the FANA Fan Podcast. I'm Ben.
And I'm Topless, and for all you grandubs out there, this podcast is for you. Today we're joined by James, Tranmere Rovers. All right, James, how you doing, mate?
You're right, I'm doing all right. Yourself?
Yeah, good to hear from you. Thanks, yeah, good to hear from you. I haven't seen you since Glossop.
Aye, it's been a while, a few months.
It's been a while, yeah, my last 0-0.
My last 0-0 as well, funnily enough.
I know. Boring game that was.
Aye, rubbish.
At least the views didn't spoil it, eh?
Yeah, that's true. Got to do more grounds in that sort of area.
Absolutely, yeah, there's loads of them.
Right, so just before you started, how many 0-0 streak did you go on, Jake? Because I can remember you recorded something like that.
That was 34 without a 0-0.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know, yeah.
Right.
So close to being 35.
Right, James, how did you get into football? What's your background in football?
Well, I've always been a football fan. Since I've grown up. I mean, for the first few years of my life, I honestly wasn't interested in it that much. Like, my mates used to be proper into football, and I was into other things. But then, slowly, surely, my mate's dad took me to a Tranmere game when I was about 8. Just as like a day out, and I proper enjoyed it. So, a couple of seasons later, I sort of convinced my granddad to get me a Tranmere season ticket, and he did. Because Tranmere's my local club, and I would have grown up to be an Everton fan, but I couldn't get season tickets for Everton, so I just went to Tranmere, and then since 2012, I've had a season ticket every season.
So, how do you enjoy being a Tranmere fan? You know, you get your ups and downs. I mean, I can remember
downs,
Sheffield United playing against you in League One.
Yeah, it's been mostly down since I got the season ticket. Like, I think the first season in charge, we were top of League One for half the season. We were top of the league at Christmas in 2012, and then after that we just completely fell apart and ended up finishing 11th. Then followed that was 2 back-to-back relegations, 3 seasons in the conference, 2 back-to-back promotions, another relegation, and now here we are again in League Two. So it has been quite the roller coaster, but it's been more downs than ups.
What's your highlight then of being a Tranmere fan? What's your favourite moment?
It has to be last season, Watford away in the FA Cup. I went down there. I think a lot of people know about this match. We were 3-0 down at half time. I think a few people left. I know one of my mates left. He left to get a tandoori at half time. Just didn't bother coming back, and he missed us equalising to get to pull it back to 3-3.
How did he feel about that?
Oh, he's absolutely devastated.
I would be too. Never leave a game early.
Exactly.
That goes for everybody.
Actually, saying that, I have left a few games early, but that's just out of sheer frustration, so I can't really talk.
Yeah. But have you ever done it like that and regretted it?
No, not at half time, no.
Half time's a bit too early. You know, there's still 45 minutes to play. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Am I right in saying that Mike Dean's also a Tranmere Rovers fan?
Yep. I've seen him on a few away games.
Were you there that day when he was at Forest Green?
That was one of the games that season that I didn't go to because I was in college at the time, and it was a Monday night, and basically I was like sort of falling behind with my college work and that. My mum just said it's in your best interest that you have to go to college to catch up on it, and so I missed out on that.
Yeah,
a bit gutted about.
I can see it's definitely a game. What you're going to regret missing, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
It was a 0-0, weren't it?
No, I think it was 1-1.
Oh, 1-1. I know it was a draw.
Yeah, we won the first leg. That was the second leg. So we drew that and ended up going to Wembley that night.
Yeah.
Did you end up going to Wembley?
Yeah. I think we all that went out.
5 minutes left of extra time, was it? Or was it shorter than that?
It was 119th minute. It was in extra time, literally second to last minute.
Right at the death.
Exactly. It was a rubbish game, but then Connor Jennings popped up, headed in the winner, and I can't remember what happened. I just remember jumping up and down constantly, running to the exact front, the front of the stand where the metal bars are.
Yeah.
There's a steward there, like with his arms out, trying to block me from running onto the pitch. And I literally just ran up to him and hugged him.
Fantastic, I love it.
What you love.
I mean, I was personally delighted with that result as well because Newport left me absolutely heartbroken in playoffs semi-final,
Aye.
knocking Mansfield out.
It's a rubbish away day as well, so I was glad for them to not be playing them next season.
Yeah, for sure, I bet.
So in terms of the Wembley, obviously, again, being a United fan, I have an absolutely awful experience at Wembley. I've never seen us win. I've only ever seen us score in one game. What's your highlights of Wembley, if you have any?
Well, it's I've only been 3 times. They were in 3 consecutive seasons actually. They were all playoff finals. The first one was rubbish because we lost that one 3-1 to Forest Green and got them promoted to the Football League. But I have to say the last 2 appearances that we made, which were Boreham Wood in 2018 and Newport in 2019, both of them have as much highlights as each other. There was the Boreham Wood one. We went down to 10 men after 1 minute. It still came away with a 2-1 win. Norwood popped up with the winner in the 81st minute. And I just remember going absolutely ballistic at that. And then, again, same in the Newport game. It was another header late on.
So, in terms of being a Tramier fan, you said that if you wasn't a Tramier fan, you would be an Everton fan. Have you ever been to see Everton?
Yeah, twice. 2 Europa League games a few seasons back. Everton won one of them 2-0 and drew the other one 2-2.
Is there any reason why you would have chose Everton over, Liverpool?
Well,
yeah, why not the Reds?
I'm from an Evertonian background. My dad's an Everton fan. Both my granddads are Everton fans. It's just sort of in the blood. You get a couple of people in my family who support Tranmere, like 2 of my uncles do, but it's mostly Everton.
Do you still have a soft spot for them anyway? Do you still want them to do well on that?
Yeah, I like them, but I wouldn't say, yeah, I suppose so.
I certainly don't anyway.
I don't mind Everton, especially with Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, decent player.
You would,
yeah. So you've talked about a Tranmere fan. How did you get into Groundhopping?
It's a bit of a weird one, this, to be fair, right? So it was 2019. I think it was about October. We were meant to be playing Doncaster at home, but it got postponed a few hours before kickoff. So I was just thinking to myself, what if I just try and find another game to go to or something else to pass the time? So I got a bus into town and just saw, where the bus could go. And I saw one going down to Chester, which I've been to Chester's ground 3 times previously, but I just thought, you know what, why not? They're playing York City in their game. It's a top of the table clash in the National League North. So I just got a bus down to Chester, went in, managed to get in for free because the turnstiles weren't working. They were just letting people in. And I went in the York end, obviously, because Tranmere sort of had like a little bit of a history with Chester a few seasons back when we were both in the conference, but it's died down now. But irregardless of that, I went in the York end. They won 1-0. It was quality. I met one of my mates down there as well.
Got in for free.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
The turnstiles weren't working.
You said October 2019.
Yeah, that was my first one.
That's exactly when I started doing it as well. Would you believe? Let's go and watch a game. Wow, what a coincidence that is.
That's weird. That.
Yeah.
How many games have you been to altogether, or ground, should I say, not games?
Well, ground hopping, I'd say it's somewhere between 25 and 30. I'm not sure on the exact number. I did 5 last season, and I've done about 20 this season.
Ooh, nice going. How many grams have you done in total? This be including like Tranmere away days?
78. And I set myself a target of doing 100 by the end of this season, but I think COVID sort of got in the way of that. I started this season with about 57. So now I'm on 78, so I think that's about 21 grams I've done this season. I've got 22 more to sort of like reach the target that I've set myself. Hopefully I can get it done by the end of the season, but I highly doubt it now.
Yeah, I like to call it the 100 Club.
Yeah.
Which I am now in. I I did it this season.
Not the Centurions.
No, the 100 Club.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I did. I can't remember what game it was I did it this season, but I was with you, innit? I was with you, Jake.
Which one for the last one? Bentley.
When I did my 100th game on Groundhopping, or my 100th ground.
Which one was it?
I can remember it being with you and Jake, but I can't remember which one it was.
Jack.
Yeah,
Jake.
Jack.
Campion, is that one?
It could possibly be in Campion. Yes, you might be right there.
Around that time, I think.
Yeah. So, in terms of Groundhopping, what made you want to do Groundhopping? What made you sort of come back to it?
Well, it was obviously because I couldn't go to tramier games during the sort of like pandemic that was going on, and I found out that non-league games were coming back, like non-elite football was coming back. So the first one that I did this season, I messaged from my mate and said Runcorn and Linnets are playing Vauxhall in a friendly, and Runcorn and Linnets is one of my sort of local clubs, and he said he was up for it. So I picked him up, drove down to Runcorn, and we just watched the game. Finished 2-0. But I thought to myself, this is a hobby that I could properly get myself into, because I properly enjoyed this experience, going to new grounds. And I have a lot of local grounds in my sort of, within about like half an hour of me. And I decided I want to try and get as many of them ticked off as possible, and just kicked off from there.
Is there any sort of league or you're trying to complete, or is it just sort of, again, like you're going within a 30-minute radius of?
To be honest, I think my radius now would be up to about 2 hours. I think the furthest that I've travelled for a game, I did one at Skegness, but that was only because I was over there on holiday. But I think the furthest I've travelled from home for a game is Worcester, which is about 2.5 hours. But I think my sort of radius is about like 2 hours. But as for leagues, I want to try and complete as many Northwest Counties grounds as possible. Like, that's 9th and 10th division. I've done a fair few of each league, because there's the Premier Division, and then there's the North and South divisions. I've done a few Premier divisions, a lot of South divisions, not many North divisions.
Do you keep track of this on any app? So,
well, I've got Footballogy, but I don't really keep track of like what leagues I'm trying to complete. I just, to be honest, I just pick whatever grounds I fancy. Like, I'll look at the nearby fixtures. I'll see if there's any grounds that I haven't done that aren't that far away, and then I'll go to them. Like, I'm not really bothered about like completing leagues and that. It's just grounds in general.
Turn up, check in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, this is the thing. It's good to check in the grounds to get your badges and stuff, but with the pandemic, what's going on, it's been hard to. You've had, especially with Footballogy, you're having to sort of add it yourself, because it only goes to the 10th tier of English football. So
I only go down to like the 10th tier. That's the lowest I'll go. Like, I haven't really started on amateur football yet, although there are quite a fair few grounds to do there.
Do you have like a Liverpool senior league?
Well, my local one's the West Cheshire League. There's a few teams in there that I haven't done, and to be honest, I probably should be doing them, because there's some grounds that are literally about like a 5-10 minute drive from my house that I haven't done.
Yeah, it's obviously like we've got Sheffield and Hallamshire Senior League, we've got the Doncaster Senior League, we've got the West Yorkshire Senior League. Liverpool got one. Because there's some cracking games I've seen at that level, because that's like lower than what we call the Central Midlands. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah,
they have some right drama. They do, some of them.
I haven't even been to that many Liverpool grounds, to be fair. I'm pretty sure the only ground hop that I've done in Liverpool is actually Marine, who yesterday were obviously playing Spurs. I went to their ground for the first time this season.
Yeah,
I have to say it's a decent little setup up there.
It looks good from the cameras.
Yeah.
I wish I lived there.
Well, in terms of that, there was the fan what tweeted out on Twitter about he was sat in his back garden or watching it through his window, and there's this picture of Gareth Bale popping up. I mean, it's not bad at all, is it? Free ticket every game.
Nah. Would you say Groundhopping something you want to see more grounds over the world, perhaps one day?
Yeah, one day I suppose. Yeah, like if I'm on holiday or whatever, I'll see if there's any games like local. If I've got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
like Skegness, for example. Skegness, for example, I only went for like a few days in October, and I saw Skegness Town were playing against Glasshoughton, I think it was. So I just went down to the ground because it was only about a 5-minute drive from where I was staying. Went to see the game there. They won 3-1. It was decent. I wouldn't have gone otherwise.
Yeah, it's a long way for you to go, isn't it?
About 4 hours, I think.
That's how I completed Skegness. Again, Nan and Grandad's got a caravan down there. I went the weekend they played Sheffield Hallam, so sort of made a weekend out of it as well as watching the game. Good little facility. Obviously, it's new.
It's a nice little ground.
So, what's the best ground you say you've visited so far?
It's hard to tell, really. Like, I think one of my favourites has been Avro, which is over in Greater Manchester. That was it's 3G all-weather pitch. There's quite a lot of separate stands from each other, but there's one section where everyone like crowds behind the goal, and there's a little bit of atmosphere there. That was decent, and so that was probably one of the my favourites that I've been to. But like the best ground facility-wise that I've been to is Widnes, because they play at a 13,500 all-seater. Share it with the rugby club.
Yeah, that's the rugby ground, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well?
the Halton Stadium, I think it's called.
Yeah,
it's a decent one. That it's only about half an hour from my house as well.
Not bad.
That's a bit like
Not
what
bad.
Wakefield's done now. Where we went pre-season.
Yeah, I was just going to point out there as well. You mentioned earlier about Worcester. Was that the six-way stadium you went to?
That was in the rugby ground. That was
what was that like?
That was a good one. I think the problem with that though is they all seated us in this one stand, but it was the stand that faced where the sun was setting, so I couldn't see anything for the first half of the game.
They bought you sunglasses.
Aye.
So we'll flip that then. What's the sort of worst ground you say you've visited?
Sorry, can I just? I need to go for a second. Someone's knocking on my door.
There's another outtake.
Right, so while it comes back, what's the worst ground you visited, Jake?
I don't know. What is the worst ground? I'd probably say that had to be Walsall Wood at the time. I thought pitch was a disgrace. One half of the goal was inaccessible and all in mud. Just rubbish. But apparently they have had it redone, and with it being cut adrift at the bottom of my blog table, I would like to revisit it. So let's hope they're better next time. It was just a bad game as well. I just hated the whole experience. But not a good ground either at the time.
Well, it's still one I need to tick off, though. we'll put that at the bottom of the tick list.
I'll definitely go again because I think they've actually redone it since. So for sure, I'll definitely do it.
We'll have to sort one out, mate. Right, James. So, what's the worst ground you say you visited?
I wouldn't actually say there's like a worse ground. It's just like the one with like the least facilities and like just the one that looks like the most run down for me is probably Barnton, which is we play in the Northwest Counties League. I think it's the Southern Division. There's nothing to the ground really. Like you just go in. There's like one little seated stand, but that's pretty much it. Like, it's really really small and like absent of any facilities, but I suppose at that level, it's sort of to be expected, but that was the one that I noticed just didn't have anything to it, really. Although I wouldn't really say it was a bad ground, in fairness. Like, it's just really small.
Just basic.
Yeah, really basic.
Is there any team or facility what stood out? Like, what makes you want to go back? Because maybe say it's the friendly atmosphere, you felt welcome.
Well, the one that I felt the most welcome at was probably Sandbach, and that was a decent little ground. That one, like a lot of the things were made of wood. Like there was one stand that was literally like it looked like a garden shed that had been converted into a stand because it was literally all made of wood. Everything surrounding the pitch was made of wood. They had like this clubhouse. It wasn't open at the time because this was at a time when they said you can't really use, like you can't really sit in to eat or whatever. But yeah, if I had to go back anywhere, it'd probably be there because they were actually really welcoming there as well.
What about the Sandbach? Is that Cheshire or is it Shropshire?
Cheshire.
Cheshire, yeah.
It's by Crewe. It's just up the road from Crewe.
Okay.
So in terms of the ground you'd like to revisit, would you be chanting, "I've got a shed as big as this"? Because
no, it's it. My garden shed is bigger than this.
That was
that
my
one.
garden shed.
Yeah. On a door and a window.
So, is there any sort of standout highlights from any of the games, whether that's with Tranmere or Groundhopping? What?
Well, I mean, obviously my Tranmere highlight was the Watford one, but I think Groundhopping, I've seen two results. They were both in the league as well, where one team had scored 10 goals in the match. There was I went to Winsford, the Barlick Town, I think it was. It finished 10-2 to Winsford. And then there was another one that I went to on a Wednesday night, which was down in Eccleshall, which is somewhere in the middle of Staffordshire, like literally just this tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. And that finished 10-1 to the away team, who I think was Stockport Town. So they're probably the standout ones for me.
I've not seen a double figures game ever.
I've seen two this season.
Wow.
I don't think I have either, to be fair.
Man, I don't think I'd enjoy writing up about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Right, who scored that one, especially if I missed a few, right? He's got that one, right? What time are we on? Right, there we go. I might do my heading. I worried about that when we saw Sutton Rovers the other week. 5-0 at half time. I thought, good Lord.
Yeah.
I think Winsford were about 5-2 at half time as well. There were like 3 goals in the first 5 minutes.
Wow. It's a game I'd love to see, but hate to write about. You know what I mean? Imagine doing a match report on that.
Yeah.
And it's a goal.
Every 5 minutes, goal.
Oh, another one. Oh, I don't know that. Is it going in? Of course it is. Oh, number 9 makes it 10.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen a double figure scoreline, but I've seen games where there have been like 10 goals scored, but it was like a 5-5 and stuff like that. I've never seen like a 10-1 or something like that.
Just I keep struggling to find games where like the sides are equally matched. Like I think the last few games that I've been to, it's been like 4-0, 5-0, 3-0. And like the away teams like barely responded.
Yeah. Well, I guess it just differs with people, doesn't it? I mean, last game I was at Stanley United was 1-1, and it was a last-minute equaliser. And it was quite a close contest. And before that, which one was it? A last-minute winner in that one as well. Radford, quite close game. Dunkirk nicked it at the end, so it always depends, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You get them, sometimes you don't.
I'm just lucky.
Yeah, at least you're seeing goals.
Yeah, definitely.
Goals galore.
So, in terms of grounds, what would you say number 1 is on your bucket list? This could be any ground, professional or non-league.
Well,
one ground in the world that you want to see.
I don't know about professional. Like, I suppose, Stockport. I suppose.
County.
Yeah, Stockport County. I just think the ground looks mint, and I reckon if we went to it, Tranmere went to it, we'd take a good couple of thousand to it.
It's not too far away, is it?
No. And I think going lower down the pyramid, I'd say probably Kidderminster, just because their ground actually looks mint as well.
Okay. Well, I've heard that apparently moving out of that ground.
Kidderminster.
Sometime. Yeah, Kiddie. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'd be good to try and get that in before they move out then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to try and get there as well. Apparently, I heard stories that it's the best pie in England
I've heard that as well.
I'm not a pie fan, but if that was the case, I'd certainly be getting one.
I've seen the claim backed up by some of my mates that have been down there as well.
Yeah. What did they say about it? What could they
just
describe
said that
about
it? Was just the way they cooked it. It's like it looks like a cottage pie. I think it is. I think it might be a cottage pie, although I'm not sure. It's in like a foil tray.
Yeah.
but it just doesn't look like your average pie. It looks like a cottage pie. So I'm guessing that's what it is. And they've just said it just tastes ridiculously nice.
Interesting. Is there any grounds outside of England that you'd like to see? Perhaps.
John, I want to see a lot of games in the Welsh League because that's easy to get to. I only live about half an hour from Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, they've sort of stopped football fans from attending games there. So when they start allowing fans back in, I'm going to try and do a lot more games over there. Plus, a lot of them play on Friday nights, so even when Tramier's back, I can go and see them anyway.
Interesting. So now there's a lot of picturesque grounds in Wales. There'll be a lot of glossopes in Wales. Definitely, for sure. But
I've only done one ground in the Welsh League, and that was Airbus. That one is literally on the site of an airport.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. You get to see planes come in then?
I don't think so, really. Like, I saw one parked up, sort of in the distance, but you don't really see them flying in.
No,
not like a public airport. It's just it's like a privately owned one.
Okay.
Have you got any stories what you like to share? So the stories we've sort of heard so far is like missing a train, being on a train, getting accused of stealing a phone, and stuff like that.
I think my standout one from this season was the battery in my car died at Eccleshall, and I had to run into the clubhouse and ask if anyone had any jump leads to start it. Took about half an hour for it to get started, and eventually managed to get back home for about 12:30. So Wednesday night.
Do you have work the next day?
Nah, thankfully.
Luckily.
I think I did have a unit lecture though.
All right.
So how did it plan out? How did you manage to get your car started then?
One of them managed to find a battery lead in the back, and he tried plugging it into the car, but it still wouldn't start. So one of them had to bring in this massive Volkswagen, reverse it, connect the leads to his car, to my car, and then jump it that way. But by that time, the whole car park was empty, which, to be fair, was a blessing, because where I'd parked, I thought it was going to be impossible to get out after the game.
Sounds like someone's in the kitchen or something. In terms of groundhopping, then, what would you say? How would you describe it to someone who sort of wants to get into it?
Well, just say that's a really good hobby to get yourself into. Like if you like football, and you want to see it more often, and want to get out more, go and visit these places that you'd never visit otherwise. Again, Eccleshall as an example, it's this tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. You wouldn't have gone to it otherwise, but had you got into groundhopping, you would have seen it, and it's just a way to get out more and experience new places and stuff.
Is there any places that you've been that you've thought, wow, it's actually really nice, but you wouldn't have thought it had been very nice?
I think. I didn't know Eccleshall even existed before I went. So that's one. That was a nice little place. I think Sandbach was quite nice as well. And
Sandbach?
Yeah. And I'm not sure, to be honest. I know these places existed, but I haven't been to them. Just for any real purpose other than football.
No, fair play. There's a lot of hidden gems out there, I always say.
Yeah,
for sure.
Is there any ground you'd like to visit for a certain reason? So, when Topless likes his picturesque grounds, is there anything you'd want to see in that area?
Well, yeah, picturesque grounds is one of them. Glossop and Darwin, they were both really picturesque. They had these rolling hills in the background. I suppose there's ones like Buxton and Matlock where they've also got really steep hills in the background as well. So I suppose picturesque is one thing that I want to see, but I think another thing is I suppose a sort of decent capacity, 4,000 or 5,000 capacity stands. Sorry, not stands, grounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Darwin, picturesque. I didn't
Yeah,
know that was there.
there's a on one of the hills. There's like this thing that I later learned was called Darwin Tower. So it's like this old, don't know, centuries old tower on top of this hill, right behind the ground.
Interesting. Obviously, I know Darwin quite well from watching the English Game on Netflix.
Yeah,
That
right
was
next to
one
Blackburn.
I like to go. Yeah.
Is Darwin quite close to Glossop?
No, it's sort of like I think Glossop's more closer to Manchester, and Darwin's like a lot further north. It's
Is it Lancashire?
Right.
yeah, it's around Blackburn, Burnley sort of.
Yeah, it's quite far then.
I must be getting mixed up with Mr. Alston.
Probably thinking Buxton's quite close because it's still in the same county, yeah, but Darwin's quite far, I think.
Yeah, Buxton's only. Well, I think both grounds are about an hour from me, which is quite convenient.
Yeah.
So, in terms of fans, is there any sort of standout support? This could be whilst watching Tranmere or going non-league grounds.
Well, with Tranmere, there were a lot last season who came to our ground and they were quite vocal. I think Pompey and Blackpool were probably the most vocal that I've seen at our place, and even at their places as well. They were proper loud. But I think Groundhopping, Chester are actually quite vocal themselves. But again, I have seen that with Tranmere, but Groundhopping as well. I went to Chorley v Halifax in the Halifax end. Their fans were quite loud. There was Avro this season. Their fans were decent, and Northwich Victoria, their fans were good as well.
Mm-hmm. Some ones there I was surprised at. Pompey, I weren't surprised. I know they're always quite loud, but Blackpool, didn't know they had loud fans.
Yeah, ever since the Oystons have gone, the attendances have just increased tenfold. Like there's this one stand. I think it's the North stand. I'm not really sure. But it's to the right of the away fans, and they are proper vocal, like proper bouncing all game.
No, that's good that the club's got its buzz back after the Oystons have left, isn't it? I suppose so. Yeah, and then we've got some non-league fans as well. I love non-league crowds that sing. So Northwich and Avro.
Yeah, Northwich don't actually own their ground. The ground share with Witton Albion. But even still, they just make loads of. Well, not loads, but a fair amount of noise.
Yeah,
like it was a friendly that I went to, and they were singing all game.
Nice. And then Avro, you've mentioned the fans behind the goal.
Yeah, there were quite a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh man, fantastic.
How would you rate Tranmere's support overall, both home and away?
So our away support, I don't want to brag, but I'd have to say, in fairness, it is probably one of the best in League Two, because we've taken things like 600 down to Colchester, which is about 5-6 hours away. We sold out Oldham about 2,500 on a Tuesday night. We took about 2,000 down to Crewe, 1,000 down to Birmingham. Like, we are quite numerous and quite vocal as well. And,
what about at home?
Yeah,
quite good at home.
Home sport's decent. It's not the loudest, but it's like one of the highest attendances in League Two. It's about 6,000 at home usually. Yeah. Obviously, without the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Where's the best place to sit?
I have to say Cop. I wouldn't choose between lower and upper. It's more vocal down the lower, but the views are a bit rubbish because obviously the goal's in the way. That's usually where I go, but a lot of the time I have to duck under the crossbar to see. So I would recommend around the middle of the Cop, maybe about 10 rows up, I suppose, because then you can see over the goal.
Well, in terms of goals, has there been any highlights, any favourite goals you've witnessed live?
Apart from Watford.
Yeah, I think Peterborough last season was a good one. It was Ollie Banks scored probably the best, one of the best goals I've ever seen, to be honest. The ball came into our box, or their box rather, was headed clear about 30 yards out. Ollie Banks chested it, and hit it on the volley first time. It looped up and down into the bottom corner to get an equaliser.
That just sounds Cracking goal.
It was cracking, unreal.
Oh man, we've got loads of those goals, I bet, haven't we? We'll never forget, just because of the celebration rather than the goal.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if any of you have done it, but United on their YouTube channel, they used to have a GoPro, what used to face the fans, both home and away games, and they used to call it the fan cam. And I've seen myself multiple times on these fan cams going at the time. I'm going absolutely mental, and I'm buzzing. I'm loving life.
Oh yeah, we have that as well. But it's called the 12th man, I think, or the 12th man cam. I can't remember, but yeah, it's like this GoPro that's pointed towards our fans. Like, I think Rotherham is probably the standout one because that was a 95th minute equaliser by Stefan Payne. We took about 1,000 over there. And I was at the very top of the stand. There were loads of people crowding around me. And I just remember, as soon as it went in, I just fell down the stairs in about 3 seconds flat. Like, you could see like this avalanche of just bodies falling down the stairs, and I'm at the very top of it.
That was at the New York Stadium.
Yeah, that was it.
Hey, Ben, you thinking what I'm thinking, Ben?
Go on, Jack.
Ben.
Yeah.
Jack. If he's listening, mate, we're sorry. Don't do it again.
So Jack in the previous podcast, once it gets released, he believes in a non-biased way that the New York Stadium is potentially one of the best grounds out there. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I like their ground, to be fair. I think I mean, it's a bowl stadium, and it's sort of the thing that sort of lets it down is the fans that aren't like that vocal. But I suppose if you get like, say a club like Portsmouth or Blackpool playing a ground like that, it would be one of the loudest in the country, I reckon.
Yeah.
Just because it's all enclosed, all the seats are close together. It's really steep. It's just quality. I proper liked it. Plus the sort of like location where it is, it's right close to the town centre. So I remember going to the pub before the game and just getting to the ground at about 5, struggling to find a place to stand. Because I've been in the pub all game.
It is a great ground, for sure. But at least somebody agrees with me on the atmosphere. Because I know a few Rotherham friends who weren't too happy with that rating. But yeah, at least somebody agrees.
They're not that loud. They're okay. They're sort of like, you can only hear them from like occasionally.
I don't get me wrong. I thought they were decent. I mean, they were decent at Rochdale when I was at that game last March. I thought they were fantastic, but like I said, they weren't anything spectacular.
Yeah, they're not rubbish. They're all right. They're okay. They're not like standout though.
No, they were far from Stoke City or Leeds or FC United Manchester.
Yeah.
Or Liverpool.
Sheffield United. Well,
I don't know about them.
This is the thing. I'll take you on a Sheffield United away day, and that'll be up there with one of the best experiences you'll have. But again, when it comes to the New York Stadium, the only time I've been when it's been Rotherham v Sheffield United, so it's sort of a South Yorkshire derby. So the atmosphere is probably going to be a lot more higher. It's going to be more intense than what it is when you're playing Rochdale or Tranmere, because it's just another game.
Yeah, ours was in the August as well, so it was like towards the start of the season. There were about 5 games in, I think.
But
so there wasn't, there wasn't a lot to play for, I suppose.
Yeah, it's still, like you said, you're still getting to just that season. Still getting some teams are still getting to just to theirs as well, new manager and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it is what it is at that time of season.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Tranmere's this season?
Underwhelming. On paper, we signed all these really quality players in the window, but just the management's let us down. Like, we've appointed 2 rubbish managers, and I suppose if we actually got someone that the fans wanted in, like the 2 managers that we appointed were like unpopular choices with the fans. Had we got someone that the fans wanted, we would have been doing a lot better because we have the squad. Yeah. We have a squad capable of it.
Yeah.
But obviously, we just keep getting these rubbish ones in with rubbish tactics, and we're currently like languishing mid-table.
Who did you have as manager? Who's your manager been this season?
Well, we had Mike Jackson at the start. He only lasted about 2 months. He was our assistant manager last season for Mickey Mellon before he left to Dundee United. Then we had Ian Dawes and Andy Parkinson, who were Jackson's assistants, come in after he got sacked. They won every game they had. They were in charge of. We literally won every single game under them.
Yeah.
And but for some reason we didn't keep them on. And our owners just brought in Keith Hill, who had relegated Bolton the season before.
Wow, that's bold, isn't it?
Then the season just sort of like grinded to a halt for us a bit. Like we just started drawing and losing games left, right, and centre. We lost 5-0 to Exeter, which was wasn't very good.
So you had these two assistants in who got 100% win rate.
Yeah.
And the old saying, you can't change a winning team. That needs to apply to managers. He's gone and appointed Bolton. Are they a rival to you? Do you dislike Bolton?
Yeah, hate them. Can't stand them.
You've gone appointed their gaffer. Their old gaffer who's been sacked by them because they've gone down. Well, not because they've gone down. They were going down anyway, weren't they? Let's face it.
Yeah, he wasn't getting many good results with them.
But that, though, yeah.
He did beat them 3-0, which I'm grateful for this season.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's a strange decision, that is. If you win and win, you've got to think, actually, let's leave it for a bit longer.
I think the only reason that Dawes and Parkinson didn't get the managerial role permanently was apparently they lacked the badges for it, but they made up for that in the actual fact that they could actually manage a club rather than Keith Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you say are the best managers? What's managed Tranmere?
Well, Johnny King is like by far. He got us into the Championship, which is the highest level we've ever played at. Nearly got us into the Premier League. We made the Championship playoffs 3 seasons in a row. He stepped down in '96. We've got a stand named after him, and there's a statue outside the main stand of him. But yeah, so he's the one that's like the best manager for us by far. He pretty much saved the football club as well, because we were meant to be going down to the conference in '87, and he just kept us up on the final day. Then we ended up getting a few promotions under our belts, ended up in the Championship. Then I stepped down. John Aldridge took over, I'm pretty sure. He sort of like guided us towards like the end of the millennium. He did quite well for as a manager for us there. He got us into the League Cup final in 2000. Then we made the FA Cup quarter-final that same season and the season after. We beat Southampton 4-3. That's a famous one, because we were 3-0 down in half-time in that one. So it was kind of like the Watford game.
That's an incredible comeback.
Kind of the Watford game, but it happened 20 years ago. And then there was one against Everton as well, where we won 3-0 at Goodison Park.
Wow.
Then we got relegated in 2001. He stepped down. But I have to say, our top 3 managers that I can think of off the top of my head are Johnny King as number 1. Mickey Mellon's got to be up there for what he's done with the back-to-back promotions. It's between Aldridge and Mellon for second and third for me.
Yeah. Fair enough, mate, yeah.
There was probably ones that were like 50 years ago, but I just can't put a name to them.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's understandable. You can only really judge on what you've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, as well, I mean, obviously, as we say in football, it evens itself out. I mean, you got the back-to-back promotions. I'm sorry to flip it, but what happened with the relegations that got you into the National League in the first place? Because all of a sudden you're in League One, you go down, you're in League Two the season after, and it happened again.
It was just really poor managerial appointments. Like, I think we kept Ronnie Moore on from the 12-13 season where, we were top at Christmas.
Yeah.
Then it just fell apart that second half of the season. We finished 11th. We kept them on for the season after. Again, we were languishing quite low. Then he ended up getting sacked for breaching betting allegations or breaching betting rules or something. Then we had John McMahon, I think, to sort of like try and keep the club up. He failed to do that. We finished 21st, went down. New owners came in, Mark and Nico Palios, who we have now. They brought in Rob Edwards. Well, Rob Edwards was already there, I think. He was crap. He got sacked in October. Then we brought in Mickey Adams, who, was previously managed in the Premier League with Leicester. again, rubbish appointment. We literally had at that season 52 players registered to us all throughout the season. A lot of them on loan. So there were too many. Like the squad was just overloaded. Too many players. Manager just kept dropping points left, right, and centre. Bottom of the league, ended up getting relegated by Plymouth in April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not good times. And we all know how hard it is to get out of that league.
It was really, really poor managerial decisions that sort of got us down to the National League.
You just got to look at Chesterfield again. When we got promoted from League One, they got relegated to League Two, and I don't think we've not looked back, and they've not looked forward since.
Nope.
And
I always remember that away day from that season as well. Lansfield.
Yeah.
Not far off playoffs now, so I do hope they sort of come back up.
Well,
yeah, I missed the 6 points
this
season. You know,
I think every time we always seem to miss playing Chesterfield and Barnet for some reason. Like when we went down to the conference, Barnet went up to League Two, and then when we went up to League Two, Barnet went down to the conference. And I think things like that have happened with Chesterfield as well. Like we've ended up swapping leagues and avoiding each other.
A bit like Rotherham and Barnsley, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, first time in 4 years they've been in the same league. Then.
Yeah.
Fans can't go and watch it this time either, so it'll be longer.
Nightmare.
But no, you're right about Chesterfield. I mean, might be the start of their turning the tide.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. I think if they went into the north, I don't know what would happen to the club with the ownership.
They won't go into the north. Not now. They really turned themselves around, and they could actually push for promotion this season.
Yeah,
through playoffs, man, but still.
Yeah. I mean, they're a big club to be down there.
Yeah,
I don't think they've ever been down there, have they?
No, we hadn't been down in the National League in our history until 2015.
Yeah, took a few years, but straight back, and then off we go again, 2 in a row.
Honestly, I'd be happy for us to finish bottom half League Two for the rest of our history than to ever go back down to the National League.
Mm-hmm.
It was just absolutely atrocious, that league. It's in 3 years down there.
Yeah. Did you go on some away days?
Yeah, I went on a few. I wasn't like massive on away days back then, but I did go to a fair few. I went to Southport, Chester, Wrexham, Macclesfield, Solihull, Eastleigh, Bournemouth, Woking. There were a couple of good grounds down there, but a lot of them were just quite small and absent of many facilities.
Yeah. So it's not some decent ones there. I mean, obviously Wrexham, they've got a nice ground, haven't they?
I wouldn't call it nice.
Okay, fair enough.
It's big, but it's not nice. We don't like Wrexham either, so.
Oh yeah, fair. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it's quite close, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite local.
Yeah. I'm going to say about Chester then, but I thought, don't bother.
So, who would you?
Again, we're not really that bothered about Chester anymore. Like, it was only just like a sort of like thingy rivalry for a couple of years, just because it was local. Like, there's not really any hatred down there. It's more a club will just end up playing in friendlies from now on.
Fair enough. But I mean, they used to be in the football league for years, weren't they?
Yeah.
They had the money troubles and they had to start again.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame for them, but
yeah.
So, who are Tranmere?
So I would like them back up in the football league though, just because we can literally just get a train down there for about £2. It's just, and we'll just end up taking thousands.
It's convenient, isn't it? Yeah, obviously it'll be a big day.
It's down the road.
Yeah.
Who would you say is Tranmere's who would you say Tranmere's main rivals are?
Your main ones are really Bolton, I suppose. They're like our number one rivals. Like, I think we're quite secondary when it comes to rivalries. Like, a lot of people, like a lot of teams, don't see us as their first rivals. Like Bolton, they hate Wigan more than us. But I would say that Bolton do hate us. As equally as we hate them. They just hate Wigan a bit more. But I suppose other ones are Wrexham. I think there used to be one with Oldham, but that's sort of like died out a little bit. But yeah, it's literally just like secondary rivalries with other clubs.
Do you dislike Liverpool or Everton?
Well,
you more than each other. Well, not you personally, but the fans, because I know you don't. But yeah,
I don't like Liverpool.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
as the fan base, though, is there a liking towards one or the other, or a disliking towards one or the other?
Well, I mean, Everton, I suppose.
What, they like them more?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer Everton over Liverpool for obvious reasons. I prefer the fans as well. Like, a lot of their fans are actually quite funny, and like us, they know how to deal with fake because they're so used to it.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, they share the club colours as well.
Yeah. Well, similar. White and blue,
Yeah.
blue and white.
Yeah. Don't say that to him. Blue and white.
Hey, I prefer red and white. And it's got to be striped.
Yeah. Barely any striped clubs around here.
That's actually quite true, actually.
The nearest one's Chester.
Right, so we'll finish off with last question then. What we finish off with everyone then. So, groundhopping in 3 words, what would it be?
A quality pastime. Just because I feel like, it's literally just like it's one of my favourite hobbies nowadays. Just getting out and going and seeing different grounds, different towns, different places. It's sort of like a thing to collect as well, because obviously, when you do them, you can check into them on Footballogy. And then you just look at your map and you've got grounds dotted about all over the country. So, my 3 words have to be a quality pastime.
I quite like that one.
That's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got...
Are you making note of all these, Ben?
I'll have to make a note, and we'll have to end at season, go for what do you think work best.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so shall we wrap this up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
So don't forget to follow us on our socials, guys. All the links will be in the description.
And for anybody who wants to appear on the podcast, we'd love to hear your stories. So check us out at the FANA Fan Podcast on Twitter and on YouTube. We'd love to hear your story and get in touch.
This is the FANA Fan Podcast. I've been Ben.
And I've been Topless.
Goodbye.
Bye.